Welcome to Pull the Pin Ready Boot Camp Edition. I'm your host Jim. With me as usual is Mike, and our special guest today is Brian.
Hello.
A
Mike,
little about 1 second late there, but yeah, that's good. That's good timing there for a first timer. How's it going, Brian? You doing all right, man?
Yeah, good to see you, man. Haven't seen
Yeah,
you
same here.
since
Kuwait, right?
probably 2008.
Wow, man, that means you
Yeah.
had a blessed life. Well, we been one thing I wanted to talk to you about offline, of course, is that experience you had going to Korea, man.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, when
yeah.
I was yeah,
this
that seemed like a wonderful experience.
is a
It
great
really was.
segue. It's a great segue to find out what he's been doing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Hey, Brian and I were in Kuwait together for some time, and then he left, I left, and we just stayed in contact via social media. And yeah, tell us a
How
little
did
bit about yourself,
yeah? How did this
Brian.
show turn into Mike? Mike, this is not your
I
episode,
know,
Mike. I
I
don't know
know,
what's
I know,
going on.
I know. He's the one that's supposed to like talking about himself, but I like to talk, so I talk for him. Go ahead, Brian. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised in Massachusetts, and ended up taking a little trip through the Army for 3 years. I did one enlistment. My MOS was, at the time, it was called 45 Bravo, which is a small arms repairman. Now they call it a 91 Fox.
Hmm.
And that was back in 1996 to 99. So it was kind of right in between the Gulf War, the first Gulf War, and 9/11. So it was basically all peacetime service. And then,
Hmm.
so I got out of the Army, and I had done 1 year in Korea as part of that. And then, so I get out of the Army. I went to college at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. I got a
Hmm.
degree. I got a bachelor's degree in political science. And after that, nothing really kind of came together. So I ended up going back doing my old MOS as a civilian contractor. And that started at Fort Lee, Virginia,
Hmm.
where I had been stationed before. And then from there, I learned about jobs in Iraq. So I went and did my old MOS in Iraq as a civilian contractor for KBR. And that was from 2005 to 2009.
Hmm.
There was a little bit of time in Kuwait in between there, which is where I met Mike. And let's see, after the contracting was over, I came home and I started working as a police officer. First with the federal government, I got hired to work on a small military installation in Massachusetts called Natick Labs, which is almost all civilian post. And then from there, I did the same job for the federal government at a VA hospital in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. While I was working there, I started working part-time as a municipal officer. And then 2 years ago, I transitioned fully to just doing municipal. So I spent about just shy of 10 years doing the federal government thing as a uniformed police officer between the Army and the VA. And then as of 2 years ago, I just went full-time municipal. So I'm working as a full-time municipal officer now, Wilkes-Barre Township, Pennsylvania. And yeah, that's a very quick summary. I met Mike, as I said, in Kuwait when we were both working for CSA. I was there for.
Wow, I forgot about CSA. Wow.
Sorry if I gave you a flashback with that.
Yeah.
Boy, what a rotten company that was to work for.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was. I think I was only there for about 4 months, maybe 5.
Mm.
I don't think I was there very long. And one of the few silver linings in that was meeting Mike and some of the conversations that we had and stuff. And
12 hours on night shift.
all night. And then
All
because
night.
I'll tell you, there weren't very many silver linings in that black cloud. They that company was.
Well, you're talking about the company, not Mike, right?
Shut up.
Oh yeah, no. That's what I'm talking about. That whole employment experience was not positive, but no, I had some good conversations with Mike, a couple of funny stories, and and no, we talked about everything. We talked about both of our experiences and military
Hmm.
time and families and thoughts on
Yep.
a lot of thoughts on politics and current events and goddamn women and all their nonsense and you know so and
I'm trying to hold it in, man. I'm sorry. Flashbacks. I'm sorry.
I
Mike didn't
imparted
give you dating advice, did he?
Mm. No, what I did was I conveyed a lot of very deep misogynistic philosophy to Mike, and no charge. I gave it to him free, but I took him to school on the fairer sex, and I was a little misogynistic back
Just a little.
then.
Oh
So
man. He's bringing back memories, man. I mean, we spent some serious 12-hour shifts at night. Just nothing was off limits. You know what I mean? And it was like good conversation. Good
yeah,
conversation.
we had
Yeah.
contracting attracts some real characters, man. I mean, they were. I don't know if Jim, did you ever do any contracting?
No, not in
No,
the military like that. No.
no. Well,
Mm.
it's a funny mix of people because for the most part, they're all vets, but they're not exactly the same cross section of people you get in the military. A lot of them were the ones that flunked out of the military before they retired, and didn't really, for lack of a better term, at least some of the ones that I ran into, and in particular, Kuwait was tough because it didn't pay nearly what Iraq or Afghanistan paid,
Right.
and
That's because they have Starbucks.
Yeah.
well, we had that too in Iraq. I mean, I had Pizza Hut and Subway and everything in Iraq.
Oh, on the base, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I don't know. Anyway, that was an interesting time,
Okay.
So that's the quick
So,
thumbnail sketch.
so where you working right now? You said you're working on a base?
No.
No.
So I had done that. When I finished contracting, I worked on a base. Then I worked at the VA hospital,
Oh yeah.
and now I'm just a municipal officer. I work for a township here in Pennsylvania. So,
Any affiliation, close contact with military vets at all, like the VA or anything like that?
not anymore. No.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
I spent 6.5 years working as a police officer at a VA hospital,
Okay.
and that because they have their own police.
Right.
And,
Right.
So I did that, but no, I transitioned out of that a couple of years ago.
Okay. So
Yep.
while you were doing that, what did you think about the military compared to when you were in to what you were seeing, even if you can compare it to today? You see a big change? If so, what do you think the biggest change is?
I'll tell you, I don't know, because I've been out of that world for so long,
Mm-hmm.
and even working at a VA for 6.5 years, like I did, you get such a broad cross section, and a lot of the people that go to the VA are older. They're substantially older even than I am.
Mm-hmm.
You get some of the younger guys, but so it's hard to say. I really have no insights into what the military is like right now.
Mm.
So all I know is what I hear through the media filter.
Right.
And Mike and I talk many times about the media, and
We never talk about the media here.
I mean the negative influence and so the distortions and stuff. So it's really hard for me to say what it's like now. I see stuff that news stories and whatnot about all this woke stuff and this gender stuff and all that crazy stuff that is out there in society is making its way into the military too. I'm not part of it. I don't see it. Like I said, all I see is just the news side of it, which is you can never trust that. But
do you have a preferred gender or?
Yes, I identify as male. My pronouns are he, him. In case you needed it, I guess.
Just
I
asking.
I guess for some other people they would be something else, but I was born with an outie, not an innie, so I was
Okay,
born.
so like you were saying, you're a municipal officer, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Jim, if you only knew, man, he could go for days on certain things.
I, I mean, what do you guys have any? I guess actually, Mike, you were doing contracting a lot more recently than I was, so you
Yeah.
probably saw more of it as far as what the recent. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Is it softer? Is it what's the current generation like?
Yeah, it's softer. It's a lot.
Yeah,
You're talking about the military, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I think they're a lot softer. Yeah.
So it went from hard to soft.
Oh God. Oh God. Yeah, went from hard to soft there, Jim.
All
Yeah,
right, just
always
checking. I want to
got.
make sure I'm
Yeah,
tracking
you
you.
always got to throw that in there, right? But yeah, I think it's a lot softer. But I always say I remember when I first joined, and I was talking to a lot of vets from the Vietnam era, and they were saying the same thing about us,
Yeah,
in comparison to them. So I guess it's like a natural order of things. We're gonna be softer a
that's
decade
always
from now. Yeah,
there's always that generation gap. I think in
yeah,
everything.
yep,
What
yep.
no matter what.
I
But
had it harder than you, and things like that. Yeah.
I don't know how you. There's certain things that nowadays I would think would be it's just part of the culture would change. Like I know that like when I was in my last year of active duty in Korea, right?
Mm-hmm.
The biggest struggle that people had was staying in touch with home, right?
Mm.
It was like just being able to call home. We had 3 phones, wired phones that
Mm-hmm.
were landline type phones in the hallways in the barracks.
Yeah.
And we had some pay phones in phone booths outside, and you had to buy these calling cards to be able to
Yep.
call home, prepaid calling cards that you either got at the PX or you bought on the local economy, and you could do either one. And then they had, as far as internet, they had like 2 computers at the post library.
Yeah.
You could go on email.
Yeah.
You got half hour at a time to be able to do that. And now I was stationed up in the 2nd ID, which was up north, and I wasn't right on the DMZ, but it was north of Seoul. We knew that other installations in Korea had internet and more accessibility to phones, so we always complained about that. But that's how it was in '98.
Mm-hmm.
I went back to Korea in 2002 as a college student and spent a semester there as a civilian with no affiliation with the military. And the big change that I noticed in between '98 and 2002 was cell phones.
Mm.
Everybody had a cell phone on the local
Yeah.
economy, and everybody had internet. I mean, there was no issue with getting on the internet, and it was like a night and day change just from '98 to 2002
Yeah.
in terms of staying in touch with home. I mean, it wasn't, when I was back in the military, it wasn't quite the Stone Age, but it was like still the era of writing letters and cards and postcards.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so now you fast forward to today, and I don't know how the young generation today is so connected with devices and stuff. I mean, you just have to wonder what it's like for guys going through basic training and stuff. Because back when we went through basic training, you might get, a half hour at the end of the day to stand in line to get on a phone, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays, I'm guessing do they even take those devices away from these recruits when they show up?
Yes, they do. Now, I can only speak for my daughter. She joined the military, and she's in the army, and they took the cell phone.
Really?
And, yeah, and then I think week 6 or 7 on the weekend they'll give it back to you, but then they take it back. She said what's weird is they'll take your cell phone but allow you to have a tablet.
Oh, I thought they gave you an Obama phone
Yep.
instead.
No.
Well, let me have a tablet. That sounds like prison.
Yeah.
Tablet program,
Yeah, but with all the apps out there, they can still communicate with home.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
so it's
Oh,
weird.
they can keep up with their TikTok. They just can't call their family.
Right. Unless you find that one particular app,
Hmm.
which she didn't.
WhatsApp.
Good.
What
Yeah,
app is that?
that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. So Brian, let me ask you. So, what do you think about the state of America today?
That's a broad question. I mean,
Gotta keep you talking, baby.
man, that's a broad question.
I mean, you can take it. You can take it anywhere you want. Just keep it on one topic, or just cross over to another topic. It doesn't matter.
Tricky. Um, well, I mean, I feel fortunate to be an American. I feel fortunate to live in this country. I think a lot of times people are negative and stuff, but I still don't think there's any better country that you could live in or want to live in. That's why so many other people around the world aspire to come here. So, in the one sense, before I say anything about politics or anything negative,
Hmm.
I think it's a great country, and I've been to quite a few other countries, and
Right.
I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. Now, having said that, I think obviously we live in a time of great polarization, and we live in a time when politics is a team sport, and people are it's just so divided over every single thing. And it's been said before many times that there's two Americas, and exactly how you want to divide that, there's a lot of lines along which you can divide
Yeah.
that, but there really does seem to be in many ways two different Americas. There's an America where people sort of love the country, they're patriotic, they enjoy their life, they enjoy working and living with their families and being successful and having some sort of traditional values and stuff, and going to
Hmm.
church on Sunday and all that. And there's an America where um, certain other ideas are in vogue, like we touched on earlier. You got
Hmm.
the woke stuff, or what in the past was called political correctness. Um, you got people who live a city life or an urbanized life where their basic needs are kind of met. Then you have people that live a rural life where things are a little more rough and tumble, and there's physical labor, and you have to be a little more independent. I mean, there's so many different ways in which there are two Americas,
Yeah.
so to speak. Um,
Some people would even say you could say it's probably three, and it depending on the topic, you can say it's like multiple divisions in America.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, So yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah.
It's an interesting dynamic. I heard somebody recently say that that you actually need both, and he was
Mm.
he was referring specifically to the left and the right, the liberal and conservative and stuff. He said that actually they function together, and you can't really have one without the other. I don't know what I think about that, but in a lot of ways, this country has always been I don't know the right word for it, but in a lot of ways, I think this country's always had a lot of dynamism and a lot of things propelling it forward in a way that ethnically, racially, economically
Hmm.
homogenous societies don't have. I mean, we've always been a kind of a cauldron of different forces at play that move the country forward in a different way.
Mm.
So, um, yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this: I am more optimistic in some ways about the country now than I would have been a year ago, because I think last year was a really lousy year in a lot of ways.
Mm.
Between the rioting and stuff that went on, and you know, although this whole COVID thing too was going
Hmm.
on at the same time. So if you had asked me that question, and it is a rather broad question,
Yeah, absolutely.
if you had asked me that question a year ago, I probably would have had a substantially darker answer uh, than I do now. But look, this country is what it is. It has a strong history. It's always going to have a strong future, and I guess that's my take on it generally. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I always say it's the best country. And I think if I mean we have our issues, that I don't say that to mean that we don't have any issues. We're a perfect country, but we have our issues. But when I go to different countries, I'm like, we're doing pretty good.
Well, that's right. And I'll tell you, people talk about some of the what people consider to be the intractable problems in this country.
Hmm.
Um, to me, this country gives you opportunities in ways that no other country does. And so, for example, people talk about racism, or they talk about a lack of generational wealth, or they talk about the income gap or the wealth gap in this country and different things. And that's, some of those things may have validity, but the United States is probably the one place where, regardless of the circumstance you're born into, you have a range of choices available to you.
Mm,
Regardless where you stand on the continuum, social continuum at birth, there's a range of choices available to you, whether you start high or low. There's a lot of countries in the world, and I know Mike knows this because he's been to some of them, where that is not true.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're born poor, or you're born to the wrong group, or with the wrong name in some third world country in some place, I'm not going to name names, but if you're born with a low station in life, you're not going to move.
Yeah.
The United States is one place where, through a combination of your own talent and ability and work ethic and education and discipline and maybe a little bit of luck, you have an opportunity to actually move on the socioeconomic ladder. And that, to me, is one of the defining characteristics of the American experience. You know what I mean? There's so many critics that want to say, I can't do this, I can't do that. I wasn't born in the right place. I don't have the right name. I wasn't born the right race, this and that. The system keeps me down. Or I don't have generational wealth. I didn't inherit anything. Or, the system is against me because I'm this gender, or I'm this sexuality, or I'm this, or I'm that. The reality is, if you put your mind to it and you have a little bit of talent, in this country, you can go almost anywhere you want to go.
Let's be real. There's so many examples of all of those that have made it.
Well, sure.
I mean, there's so many examples out there. Like, you can be RuPaul. I mean, you know who that is, right?
Sure.
Like, who would have ever thought this would be a rich person in America?
Yeah.
So there's really no excuse people can actually stand behind anymore, because someone in their class or category has done it.
I think a lot of people, claim that their particular issue or their particular identity, and inevitably the conversation winds down to identity politics, as it always does. But, a lot of people claim that their particular issue, whether it's gender, sexuality, race, ethnicity, income, whatever it is, that's the thing that's holding them back. It's the system, or it's the broader society that's holding them back. But the reality is, it's a feature of human nature, that into the place where you're born, there you are most likely to stay, right? Human beings are very prone to inertia. So, you get habituated to living in a particular economic class, living in a particular geographic location. Most people tend to stay there. And it's not because of any invisible force like racism or sexism or capitalism or anything that's forcing you to be there. It's not any external thing. It's a feature of human nature. And I always say to people, I guess to make it a little bit personal, a number of years ago, I came to a realization that the vast majority of things in my own life that had ever held me back came from me. And I made some stupid decisions and counterproductive decisions that limited me professionally, personally, financially. And it wasn't until I got older and got close to 40 years old that I started realizing every time I did something foolish that was self-defeating, it came from me. wasn't anybody else around me that did any of that stuff. It came from me. And I think that's the case with most people, that, when, put it this way, I don't feel that there are as many external barriers to success and happiness as people tend to say there are in America. And our whole political social dialogue has become, revolves around the different causes that, or problems or issues or identity things that people want to blame for their lack of happiness or their lack of success in this country. They want to blame other people, or they want to blame identity issues, when in reality, the things that can, and this is true, I don't care who you are, the things that control where you go in life are mostly under your control. And the things that are outside your control that influence where your life goes, they're a tiny minority of the things that actually. So if let's say 90% of 90% of what influences where your life goes are the decisions you make. Your choices matter, right? So, and these are everyday choices, like where you choose to live, what level of education you choose to attain, what level of debt you choose to take on attaining that education, how many kids you choose to have, and when you choose to start having them, at what age. Probably the most important, probably the most influential thing, who you choose for a life partner. Your personal choices around drug and alcohol use, your personal choices around your finances. All of these decisions have a vastly bigger impact on where your life goes than whether somebody likes you or dislikes you because of your race or your sexuality or your gender or any of those other things. So it's the choices you make have a much, much more influence over your life than the things that are external to you. And I think that's one of the major things that we miss with all this identity politics stuff that we constantly obsess about in this country. That, is somebody maybe going to deny you a job opportunity because they don't like the color of your skin or your religion or your sexuality or something at some point? Maybe. But again, I think those are going to be the things that are a very limited part of your life. I don't think that they make up a small portion of what influences where you go in life. But I think, not to be repetitive, but in this country, your choices matter. If you optimize your choices and make good ones, you can do well in this country. If you make lousy choices, even if they're the easy choices, if you grow up in a bad neighborhood where there's a lot of crime, the easy choice is to become part of that life of crime and stay right where you are. Okay, but it's a choice. So the choices you make have a huge impact on where you go in this country. I think much more so than other places around the world. If you're born poor or to the wrong caste in a particular society, there is no social mobility, period. No matter what you do to try to improve your situation in life, you're not going anywhere, which is why so many people from those parts of the world want to come here as immigrants. So, a lot of people have a lot of bad things to say, or a lot of, criticisms and stuff about this country. And one thing that we've always done in this country is kind of obsess about our problems and our faults and stuff. And that always goes on. That's a permanent condition, no matter what time or era or whether there's Republicans in charge or Democrats in charge. This country is always stewing about its problems. But we have it pretty good, I think, in this country. That's my view.
Yeah, I was going to share something because I think one of the obstacles is victimhood has payoffs too.
Yeah.
Because if you can be a victim, you don't have to achieve. You don't have to take the blame. I mean, there's so many payoffs just to being a victim that it is the easy way.
Right.
So it's very hard to overcome being that victim because, I personally lived through it when my wife passed away. I sat around like, oh, woe is me, woe is me. I played the victim for a couple of years, thinking it was other people's job to come console me and get me off my feet. Wrong answer.
Right.
But those payoffs kept me there.
Sure. I mean, that was probably the biggest realization, and it took me until very late in life to come to it, was that everything you have in your life comes from within, man. It really does. not to say that some people don't have circumstances beyond their control that affect them. I mean, for example, having your spouse pass away, or there are people that, they lose everything to a house fire or a tornado or flood, or they're minding their own business, driving home one night and some drunk plows into them and injures them or something like. I mean, those things happen, but by and large, I think the vast majority of what influences the direction of people's lives comes from them.
Right.
And some people are better equipped to make those decisions in a good way than others, but
you talk about circumstances. Look at like Hunter Biden. I mean, the man was silver spoon handed, and he still can't handle it. I mean, it's the truth. He can't handle it.
Such a good conversation. Now he just took it there.
Yeah, no,
but it's an example on the other side, the other spectrum.
There's something to that. I mean, and it's not just him. I mean, look at how many celebrities or other wealthy people, they attain great things in their life and they live a life that other people aspire to, and they can't keep it straight. Look at how many child actors there are, musicians, different people. They have all this attention and adoration and fame and wealth that gets showered on them, and their lives are a mess.
Yeah, Mike's a Justin Bieber fan, so he can tell you all about that.
What I was gonna say was, damn, I can't stand that. But him and the Kardashians.
Oh Lord.
But what I was gonna say, I heard this from a talk show host years ago, and I desperately tried to prove him wrong. He said, "We are where we are because of the decisions that we made."
10,000%.
And I said, "Nope, that ain't true but." I'm gonna come back to that, and ever since then I've been saying it. Yeah,
I mean that right there is actually about as succinct a way to say what I've been blathering about for the last 10 minutes. Is that that you are where you are because of the things that you've chosen to do or not chosen to do.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that gets lost in the dialogue in this country far too often.
Now, well, I will say what I appreciate about this is that we can admit that there are victims, like Jim just alluded to, right? And we can admit that, but still, we have to make a decision. Are we going to stay there,
right?
Or are we going to,
Well, good point. Yeah, Mike. I don't want to diminish the fact that you can still be a victim of a crime, but you can also be accountable to that crime too. You can say, "Hey, I went out today and showed up at the store and I got robbed. Right. I went out and showed up, so I did in some way create that." Now that doesn't mean you created somebody robbing you, right?
You use crime as the example. You can inject anything in there.
Anything.
A victim is a victim, let's say, and whatever it is, I always say, okay, but now what are you doing?
Right.
Sooner or later we have to get over it and keep moving. And I think that's what I was taught, because I saw where I would end up if I didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I was taught that at a young age, very young. When I was 11, my closest friend was like 25. So,
wow.
Yeah. And I just learned a lot.
And it's funny, we've gotten to a point where the social discourse in this country has so many little grievance groups that love their particular victimhood that now you see some of these things starting to compete with each other. So there is nothing I find funnier than when these woke types end up trying to have each other for lunch. So you see the feminists now are upset about the transgenders, because now you've got the feminists who are supposed to be for women trying to say, wait a minute, men cannot be women.
Right.
But you've got the transgenders and the LGBTQ alphabet soup trying to say, oh, but they can. A man can be a woman, and that's not a problem.
Right.
Now you see it in sports. We just had it with the Olympics and the whole thing. So you see this where you have feminism basically came about as a grievance group, if you want to call it that, trying to object to the way women were treated. So there were certain critiques of society they didn't like. But you have this other constituency that's part of the whole woke PC universe that's saying, "Oh, well, hold on a second now. And now you're starting to encroach on our little thing. You don't get to be a victim in our space. We're the victim."
Right.
competing victimhoods. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And even you find some people who don't even have the victim complaint taking sides with someone for them, even though nobody asked them to, just to
Right.
become the victim for them.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I think a lot of people, there's an interesting theory of mental illness that goes back, and it was from an old book I read. And one of the theories was that basically life is difficult for everybody, no matter who you are, and that people have to deal with that difficulty psychologically, in their own way and survive it. And one of the roots of mental illness is when people can't handle the real difficulty of life, that they start creating invented struggles that they can cope with, right? So, and this particular theory was more serious mental illness, like even schizophrenia and bipolar and all that. Now, I'm no psychologist. I don't know if there's any credibility to that particular theory about mental illness, but even it applied to like neuroses and psychoses and stuff, that those things are created by the mind to give people struggles that they can deal with, because they can't really handle day-to-day life, real life. Okay.
Right, Mike knows. Which one were you diagnosed with?
See what I gotta do with?
No, but the reason I bring that up is that, in a way, you see some of these things, and I often have the thought that that's kind of what people are doing with some of their own pet grievances when they complain about things. Whether it's, you listen to some people prattle on about this, like the sexuality and gender stuff. They talk in language that I don't even understand, like, especially the younger generation that have developed this whole vocabulary around this stuff. I listen to some of this, and I'm sitting there going, this person is creating all of this to escape from just having to confront life. They're creating this whole drama within themselves to not confront the fact that they're not doing shit with their life, And actually, I'm sure you both know people like that in your own life. We knew people like that, I'm sure, in the military. People that were just a constant screw up, and they're like thinking that, well, the system's against me, or the first sergeant doesn't like me, or they've got it out for me, or this and that. And it's like, just get out of your own way. You know what I mean? Just, stop screwing up. I see a lot of that. I think a lot of people's struggles are purely self-imposed and really purely invented, I think, because it's easier than having to go out there in the world and put themselves out there and either succeed or fail on their own merits. They'd rather have their own little self-invented struggle with purely imagined oppression that some people are legitimately oppressed. I'm not going to take away from that, but I think a whole lot of what goes on in the social discourse right now is stuff. People get so carried away going down a rabbit hole of it really takes on the look or the feel of neurosis in a lot of cases, I think. I don't know how we got down that track, but
that's what you call a good conversation.
Well, let's bring it back into the.
So, hey, let me ask you this, Brian. Did you contract COVID at all?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
I never did. I guess I knew a few people who did. And I got the vaccine. I got mine fairly early because, being a police officer, it was made available to first responders fairly early on in the process. So I got mine in January. And,
wow.
I was not particularly afraid of COVID. Reason I wanted to get the vaccine was I wanted to be able to get back to traveling and going overseas and stuff again for, just taking vacations. And I figured the sooner that we get vaccinated and stuff, the sooner those opportunities would open up. So that's why I wanted to do it. I can tell you that the first dose, I got the Pfizer.
Yeah.
The first dose really didn't do anything to me, not too much. After that second dose, man, that hit me like a freight train. I was down for 2 or 3 days. I mean,
wow, that's the longest I've heard.
So then you got the COVID.
Well, Yeah, I mean,
You either got it in a vaccine or you got it in a virus.
it was quite the experience. And, you know, I never in my life had heart palpitations or anything like that until I got that vaccine. You know,
Wow.
which is odd. I mean, you know, and it was actually about a week after the first dose. I was feeling
Oh.
perfectly fine and sitting at a computer working one night, and all of a sudden my heart feels like it's going to leap out of my chest. It's pounding, right? So we called the medics over from the other side of the building. They came over and threw me on a monitor, and they go, "Oh yeah, you see these little, you know, little irregular heartbeats? Those are called PVCs." And I think it was like premature ventricular contractions or something, which is different from premature ejaculation. I've suffered from that.
A lot different. A lot different.
Oh my goodness.
There's no shot for that.
But
That's a shot in itself.
I got these little irregular heartbeats, and they told me, they're like, "Oh, people get these. They're harmless. They don't mean there's anything wrong with you. You know, they don't cause you a problem. Don't worry about them." And you know, that actually happened several times. I don't get them anymore because I guess it's been like 7 months now. I think, but honest, I really think that had something to do with that vaccine. Did you guys?
Oh, okay. No,
I haven't, but my father died a week and a half after his shot.
Get out of here.
Can't say it was related. We can't say it because we don't know. But it was very odd, a week and a half.
First of all, I'm sorry you lost your dad, man. That's terrible. But then, did he have any other health complications? Or?
Yeah, he was definitely. Well, we didn't think he was ready to go for sure, but he wasn't in great health. He wasn't like, you know, an athlete or anything even remotely close. So, but yeah, we didn't expect it, and wow. No idea. He ended up getting really sick and had diarrhea, and then he ended up collapsing on the floor, and he was still awake and conscious, and next thing you know, 2 hours later, he's gone.
Wow.
Yeah. And I got a shot record, and they told me he just got, you know, I saw it, so I was like, so the COVID might not have killed him, but it definitely made him sick.
Yeah.
And then he probably dehydrated or something in relation to that, maybe blood clots, something, I don't know. But, yeah, that's not a statistic we'll ever find out.
Right.
No. I think they'll find out over time that there's a little more side effect to it than what we've been told initially.
Yeah.
Well, you'll tell us in a couple of years.
Well, I mean, I remember being in the Army in Korea in '98, and that was when they came out and declared that every active duty serviceman had to have the friggin' anthrax vaccine.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that damn thing. Nobody wanted that. Because we figured we're a bunch of guinea pigs, and they're giving us some stuff here that, you know, nobody wanted. And I think it was a six shot series, and I got the first 3, and then I got out. You know, my enlistment ended, but nobody wanted that. I didn't want it.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't know. You know,
they're not responsible.
No, of course not. Never. Well, it's an interesting question now, because the military, I think, has a bit of a conundrum on their hands, because this COVID vaccine does not have full FDA approval yet. It's only provisional.
By their definition, it can't.
Right. They can't. Can you mandate it for these? You know, I don't know.
They still projecting by mid-September, it's going to come down. It's going to be mandated for military.
Yeah.
Sad.
Well, I could see that turning into potentially one of these things like, you know, Agent Orange or you know, burn pits or you know, any of the, you know, Gulf War syndrome or all these things that the VA is having to deal with for years. I could see that being the next one then, if they mandate this thing before it's fully FDA approved, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Who knows?
All right, Jim.
We want to give them the opportunity to pull the pin here, because we didn't inform them.
Oh, we didn't even tell them about that. Wow, we suck.
Yeah, we're terrible.
Yeah, but we only got like 4 minutes, and we got to do another one with them about the
Yeah. Mike likes to talk business on the shows. But we normally, what we do at the end of our episodes, if you haven't seen any, we just pick something random. It doesn't have to be anything we talked about, just anything random. Mike likes to talk about a lot of things in the bathroom, but we'll pull the
Toilet
pin
humor,
on
that's
something.
always highbrow stuff. Yeah.
So we give you the opportunity at the end of this episode to pull the pin on something you just think needs to go away or stop or something.
Anything you want.
Oh, well, this is that King for a Day question.
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah.
It could be related.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to really ponder this one.
You got 3.5 minutes.
Anything at all that I just sort of don't like, the pet peeve, and I can get rid of it.
Oh my God.
You can put it in a pit, pull the pin, drop the grenade, and it's gone.
Boy, that's there's so many directions you could take that, huh?
Oh, I know you can.
What do I want to hate on today?
Yeah. Cover your ears, boys and girls. It's about to go down.
Oh man.
No pressure. 2 minutes.
You might have actually made me speechless here.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
Yeah, a little overwhelmed with the variety of
Come on, how about army socks? Something. You got to have something, you know? Army socks, they're green, they're a little rough. They don't make good happy socks. Like, come on.
You know, I'll tell you what. Not that I'm not selecting that at this point, but I will make a comment on those socks. I found out by joining the Army that I'm allergic to wool.
Really?
So yeah. So when I showed up to reception at Fort Jackson in 1996, they issued me those damn wool socks and wool blankets for the bed. Too.
Yeah.
So 4 nights into being in reception, everything from the knee down on me looked like I had poison ivy.
Wow.
And I woke up, I don't know, half a dozen times that night with nosebleeds, just blood running out of my nose from breathing in those, like the fibers and stuff from that blanket.
Yeah.
Never knew I was allergic to wool until I made it to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. And
Wow.
for the rest of the time that I was there, I had to sleep in my sleeping bag on top of my bed to keep me off the wool blankets. Cause crazy stuff.
So we're gonna pull the pin on wool blankets because you've used up all your time.
Yeah.
So you got out of this one.
Get out of the wool era, Army.
That is all the time we have for this episode. Brian, thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing your story.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you. And until next time, Godspeed.
Hey, and pull the pin.
Thanks for joining us here at Pull the Pin Already. We hope you had as much fun as we did. If you like what we do, go ahead and hit that like button and share this video with a friend. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button so you don't miss out on any of our future episodes. But most importantly, leave a comment below. Let us know if you agree or disagree with our opinions. Hope to see you here next time on Pull the Pin Already.